Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Northern Ireland Women's Football Show with me, Jana McCabe. Today it's something a little bit different because I'm joined by Colin Hopkins in the studio. Thank you, Colin, for joining me.
Not a problem, Jana. It's nice to be here. Nice to be here in front of the camera and behind it for once.
How does it feel to be sitting about to be interrogated by me?
I'll see you. Ask me that question at the end and I'll give you a better answer at that point in time.
And I think it'd be rude not to mention 1880 at the very start of this. How has everything been getting on?
Yeah, it's been busy. I mean, we first got involved, as you know, in women's football 7 years ago. And since then, we've been right to the fore of covering it, to be honest. And we've just started a new season with the NAWFA. I think we're about 5 or 6 games into it. And yeah, it's been really, really good so far. And as usual, the response has been fantastic, which is absolutely good to see.
Speaking of that new season, the NvtV Premiership is about to get underway as we film this, so we're going to look forward to some of those fixtures. We'll start with the newbies of the league, Lisburn Rangers. They travel to face Derry City. That's a hard first game for them, isn't it?
It's a difficult one, but they've shown so far. I mean, I know it's only a week or so in. They've played League Cup matches over. Lisburn Rangers have sort of upset the apple cart a little bit, and that they're now in the final after defeating Crusaders. They're in the semi-final of the League Cup. So all of a sudden, there's a bit of confidence there in their mindsets. I think, you know what, we can get a result here, to be honest. So I don't see any reason at all why they can't go to Derry and get a result. Having said that, Derry have signed well, so it's going to be a tough enough game. But it's one of those ones, a bit hard to call at this stage in time.
Lisburn Rangers really seem like a team that have their game set and plan. They've really everything dealt with. And in that league launch the other day, they really just came with a goal that they're here to cause upsets, and they obviously did against Crusaders, as you mentioned. So Derry, it'll be an interesting game for sure.
Well, Derry are determined to do a lot better this year. You can see it from the signings they've made. But as you already said, Lisburn Rangers, very, very well organised. Didn't take any time off during the winter break. Other clubs took a break. They just kept on going and working and all credit to them for doing that. But hopefully the legs aren't sort of a jelly-like by the time they get to the start of the season. But a lot of good players on there. So, whereas I don't think they'll win the league this year, I think they'll certainly cause a few upsets along the way.
Do you think they'll be up as high as possibly be winning the league, as you just said?
I don't think they'll win it, no, that's what I'm saying, but I think I can certainly see top half, and wouldn't surprise me at all if they pull off the odd upset here or there, to be honest, whereas maybe in previous seasons we've seen some of the new teams come up, and to be honest, to a certain extent, the bigger sides have played them and beaten them easily. I don't think it'll be the case this year. I think it'll be a much harder competition all around. And
you mentioned there Derry have signed well. There's some big signings there.
Yeah, Derry have signed quite a number of players now, coming up from sort of maybe possibly lower leagues, a lot of players from that sort of side of the country as well, but they seem to have signed sensibly, and certainly the way they're promoting the side this year, to be honest, a lot more social media activity and stuff, and the teams seem to be taking a lot more serious, which is great to see, to be honest, and be interesting to see how their season pans out.
And on a fashionable note, I'm loving their socks this year. They say Derry City on the front of them. I think they're class. I think they'll be really good. It's definitely going to be an interesting game, and two teams that, as you said, want to push on this season, and definitely a good first game. And we'll move on. Larne, they're at home to Lisburn Ladies. That's another tough tie.
Yeah, Larne this last week have just went absolutely crazy in terms of signs. I think there's no less than 6 new signs have come in. I think there's at least 5 of them have come in from the United States of America. Now, I know Kirsty Cameron's came back. She played over here before, has been playing in the States. She's one of those players. But there's been other players who came in who have played previously with Chelsea, have played previously with Glasgow Celtic. So they've brought in a lot of decent calibre of players, to be honest. They obviously are determined to make their mark in the women's Premiership. I mean, we've seen Kenny Bruce, who's the owner. He is determined that to make sure the men's team made a big mark in the men's Premiership. Is this the start of Larne maybe starting to try and maybe buy their way up this table as well? So it's going to be a very, very hard start for Lisburn Ladies.
You mentioned there that they've got 5 new players from the United States, and one of them being Kirsty, as you said. She's had so much experience with the Glens and Linfield. She definitely knows this league. She's perfect for Larne.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. And they've also brought in another player called Danny Jennings, plays up front. Big strapping centre forward, and she's going to be hard to stop as well. But any player who's played in the universities league in America is going to be a very good standard. So you'll see a very, very different Larne this season than you have done last season, I suspect.
And they had a really good goal threat last year with Holly Johnson, and I think just having that pairing now, they could be a threat up front, definitely.
Yeah, well, Holly last year did remarkably well. I think a wee bit of support up there to help her along the way will stand her in good stead as well. So sounds like a good front line, decent back line as well for Larne. So once again, I suspect they'll produce a few upsets along the season as well.
What about Lisburn Ladies? They obviously competed in the All-Ireland Cup for the first time. They had a very tough group, but they show that they can do it, and they show good performances.
Decent enough side, lovely club to watch, lovely club to work alongside. I think they might find it a little bit harder this year potentially. I think the ladies' Premiership even more now than it has been, is becoming very financially driven. That's maybe a thing they don't have on their side. You know, other clubs can go out and sign big names in brackets, if that makes sense. Lisburn ladies potentially don't have that sort of clout, so they might find it a bit hard this year, but you'll guarantee this, they'll give 100% every game.
And a new manager at the front of them with Phil Lewis.
Phil Lewis brings a heck of a lot of experience, you know, obviously so many years with Linfield ladies, so he'll certainly, you know, how to get them playing to their full potential, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Phil does.
And I think we've had a couple of the Lisburn girls on, and they seem to be really liking how Phil is coaching, and they seem to really be taking on his approach, which is good to see.
Yeah, it's carrying on from his Linfield days, to be honest. You speak any into the Linfield girls players, you know, they'll all say they all like playing for Phil, to be honest. He was a great coach to work with, and he certainly carried it on to Lisburn.
And the reigning champions at the minute, Glentoran, they are at home for the first game, and they'll be playing at the Blanchflower for the first time, and they're facing Crusaders, who obviously just lost to Lisburn Rangers in that cup game. Tough first game. I'm going to say it's for all of them, but another tough game. But the Glens will really want to get off to a winning start to their league campaign. Certainly
will, and for Crusaders you can't get a harder start than having to travel to the reigning champions, should I say. So it should be a good game. Crusaders will feel hard done by losing an injury time to Lisburn Rangers last week. Glentoran obviously haven't performed so well in the All-Ireland. They went out of the League Cup at the semi-final, which maybe a lot of people didn't see coming either. So it hasn't been the ideal start to their season, but in terms of the league, they'll certainly want to get off to a winning start.
And they've made some good signings themselves as well.
Yeah, they've been sensible. They haven't brought in a whole pile of players, but the players they have added will add quality to the side, no doubt about it. And obviously if the likes of one of our former guests, if Ellie Scott comes back later on in the season, that'll add a bit of, you know, good quality goalkeeping in there as well, to be honest. So could be an interesting season.
Do you think they can defend it? Cover your ears, all fans out there.
I think they have a chance. I don't think it's going to be maybe as easy as it has been in previous seasons. I think there are, as I've said there before, a couple of other teams who will maybe not necessarily win the league, but will cause the odd wee upset here or there. Whereas in previous seasons we've seen teams going right the way through and beating most other sides easily. Don't think it'll be that easy this time, so they'll certainly have to be at the best of their game right from day one.
But Crusaders, they're really looking to build. They kind of have gone stable now. You know, they keep pushing forward.
Yeah, Crusaders have always been thereabouts. Once again, they haven't made any massive signings, but they've signed one or two decent players away along the way. So they're a very, very hard side to beat. We all know that, to be honest. Very well organised. Johnny Tuffy, as manager, has them very, very well organised, and they'll be a hard side to break down. So it's interesting to see how that one turns out on Sunday. And we've got live coverage on the Zone apparently this one. It's a new league's official provider of highlights and so forth. So interesting to see how they cover that as well.
You mentioned there that new deal. It's great to see the women's game get more coverage.
Big station to Zone, obviously. At the end of the day, they do a lot of women's, you know, coverage already. They have their own specialist women's TV highlights. It'll be interesting to see how the Irish League gets on, because when I look at it, I'm seeing all the top European clubs, the PSGs, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas. So it'll be interesting to see how little Glentoran and Linfield and Crusaders and all feature in their channel. So interesting news.
Our teams will definitely hold their ground, though, I have no doubt. And I'm sure you're used to seeing Chelsea lose in that channel, so it's grand.
No comment, especially after last night. I thought the league was won, I thought the Europe Champions League won it, and all of a sudden they're all lost.
Oh dear. I'll get my little violin out for you, sure.
Been a bad year.
And last year's runners-up, Cliftonville, they travelled to face Mid-Ulster. Mid-Ulster obviously haven't made any signings. Cliftonville have had a good few signings this off-season, haven't they?
Yeah, especially the return of Danny Maxwell. It's massive for them, to be honest. She's been absolutely fantastic for Northern Ireland of late. She went over to try her luck at Blackburn Rovers, and we don't really know the story, but for some reason she's now decided to return home. You know what it's like with young players, not just females but males as well. Sometimes they go over and they don't really settle in a new environment and feel they miss their families, they miss their friends, and sometimes I think, just to be honest, it would be better if I came home. And she's decided to do that. She's came back, and it's a massive sign for Cliftonville to get her back on board just ahead of the start of the new season. There in terms of Mid-Ulster, you know, as you say, they don't really haven't signed anybody. You know, I spoke to Elaine Junker, who runs Mid-Ulster last week, and she was saying, you know, they know it's going to be a hard season. I mean, last season they just about escaped the drop. They know it's going to be a hard season, but as Elaine said to me, to be honest, you know, Colin, the most important thing is for us, it's not to achieve trophies and win trophies, it's to develop players. I mean, they look and see the likes of, you know, the players that have came through, you know, the Simone McGills and so forth, all of whom have came through Mid-Ulster over the years, you know. Obviously Lily Crookswood's now over in Newcastle, that's another player they've developed. Jackie Burns has obviously been through Mid-Ulster as well, so basically, as far as Mid-Ulster are concerned, that is where the success rate actually lies, is that the same players coming through and potentially going on to sort of full-time football.
As you said, they've definitely got a good track record when it comes to that, but the likes of Lily not being there this season is going to be a big miss for them.
It is. I think also there maybe the backup keeper got a slight knock at the moment as well, so it's going to be a hard season for Mid-Ulster, but at the end of the day they'll give it the best shot.
Speaking about Mid-Ulster and the great person that is Elaine, I did see a story throughout the week of her FaceTiming Simone McGill. Did you see it with a little player, with one of the wee girls? It was very sweet. So it just kind of sums up that Mid-Ulster really are a community club, and
very much so.
I really hope that they can survive this season. And you know, you never know. Cliftonville, as you said, they've made some great signings. Danielle Maxwell coming back, just for the Irish League in general, for the Premiership, it's just a great signing. It's great to see her back playing. You said she didn't have much time over in England, but she scored in her debut, so she'll always have that. And I think she will be a force to be reckoned with this year, as she has been throughout her career, and she's just kind of hit peak with Northern Ireland as well. Yeah,
playing very, very well. So she'll definitely be a great addition to the league and indeed to Cliftonville.
And the McGuinness sisters are always causing havoc for other teams, and Orla McGuinness, the youngest one, has just signed a pro deal with Cliftonville. It's great to see those younger players get those opportunities now.
Yeah, very much so. It's good to see that younger players are now getting the chance to sign pro deals and actually get some sort of return on what the efforts they're putting into the game, to be honest. You know, so Cliftonville will be thereabouts. I mean, they'll be determined to wrestle that, you know, trophy back from Glentoran this year, and certainly haven't beat them in the semi-final. You know, they started reasonably well in the All-Ireland, so at the end of the day, it could be a good season for them as well.
That semi-final victory will give them a bit of a confidence boost, though, because they know now that they can beat Glentoran.
Exactly. So, as you say, confidence boost going into the game. They'll be expected to get 3 points at Mid-Ulster and get off to a winning start, and then we'll see where they go from there.
And the one team with no game this week, that's not a great start for them, I suppose, is Linfield. I couldn't tell you all their signings. There's too many, I've lost count, but they've made some amount of new signings and a new manager in charge too. I
think under Ryan McCabe, Linfield will be determined to bounce back. They've had a few bad seasons. In terms of their reputation, I know you're finishing mid-table when you're at Linfield, not acceptable. You need to be doing better than that, so they'll certainly be one to push hard this season. So once again, as I mentioned before, a few teams in our Linfield being one of them. I've no doubt along the way will be producing big results, and that'll make it a very interesting season as well.
How do you think all their new signings will work out? Do you think that they'll be able to merge okay, and like off-season's been enough time for them, or?
Well, they've started well in the All-Ireland. They've obviously played 2 games and they haven't lost neither of them, and they've drawn 1-1-1. So they'll be happy enough with that sort of start, to be honest.
And it was a tough group as well.
Tough group, so they've every chance of going through. They're actually the leading side in terms of Northern Ireland, in terms of how that All-Ireland competition's going. But once again, we'll see how the season starts. It's very hard to predict, but they'll be there or thereabouts.
McConville, another manager with a lot of experience, not just here but in loads of leagues.
Yeah, Ryan's been around quite a few corners, let's say, put it this way, to be honest. He'll not mind me saying that, but yeah, I haven't said that he's achieved success at a lot of the clubs he's been at, so he'll be looking to restore Linfield to their former glories, no doubt about that.
Never mind what the two of us think, we'll listen to what the players who actually know what they're talking about think. You caught up with them at the league launch last week, and we're going to hear from some of them now. Over to you, Colin.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can go out and do the double, but we always have our philosophy is to take every game as it comes, and I think that's the most important thing, because if you get too caught up in the end goal, you're not looking in front of you. So we take each team as it comes and each game.
Personally, I do think we can achieve mid-table up around 5th, 6th, even 4th, 5th. I think with the signings we do have the ability to do it.
I think, as we call it, there's basically the league, but there's 2 mini leagues within the league. So we want to finish top of our own mini league within there. So middle of the table would be a nice shout for us.
We came in at the start of this pre-season this year and kind of discussed last year. Obviously I wasn't there, but I've been there previously when they were successful, and we know that it's not up to Linfield's standard. If you look at the men's and how high flying they've been, we know that last year in 5th position that they finished just wasn't good enough, either by our own standards or by the club standards. So this year the aim's definitely on really pushing to go higher than we were last year, and start to push those top 2 that everyone talks about, the Glentorans and the Cliftonville. We know that someone needs to start to stand up to them, so that's our aim this year, is to start to build towards that.
Obviously, as you said, it was a tough season last season, but this year we just go out and hope to, obviously we go in to win every game, but try our best for the 90 minutes, and whatever happens, happens.
Hopefully this year, obviously they lost the league last year, very fine margins, but hopefully this year they go on and we go on and win the league this year.
The target is to play our way. We have our own standards, and if we hit them, then our performances will take care of our scoreline.
I think we could go one better than last season. Obviously we finished third last season, which in the end was probably a good end of the season, but we've been pushing to get in the top two for the last few years, so no, we'd definitely be wanting to push up there in the league. And then obviously with the cups as well, we've been pushing there. We've been in quite a few finals the last couple of years as well, so we're definitely looking for a bit of silverware as always.
As a club, we just want to keep progressing and keep moving the club forward. A lot of work's been done behind the scenes to try and professionalise the club, and it's just up to us on the pitch to deliver that as well, so we just want to keep growing.
We're going to take our attention onto the Championship now and leave the Premiership, and I'm so excited to see how that Premiership does get started on Sunday. But the Championship is well into the swing of things now. Feels like we've had plenty of games, and Bangor, Ballymena and St James's have a 100% record so far, a flying start from those three.
Yeah, it is indeed. As you say, we're already 3 games into the Championship.
Feels like more, sorry to all of the girls.
It does, but I mean there's a lot to play for in the Championship this year. Obviously we've a couple of teams have came down from last season, will be determined to bounce back at their first attempt. With a few teams who have done well over the last few years will once again be equally determined to do well, so it's got off to a flyer, some fantastic games in so far.
You mentioned there about a couple of teams have dropped down. Obviously Ballymena dropped down, they were relegated, and Sion had to drop down to the Championship. They've already faced each other, and what a game that was. We were both at it.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to actually attend that game. It showed the standard of the Championship, to be honest. Both sides played very, very well. I think it had a bit of everything that game, to be honest, including red cards and obviously some great goals in there as well, to be honest. And certainly those two sides I would expect to be there, come the end of the season, pushing for that space to go back into the Premiership.
Ballymena are really showing some grit. They really do want to get back up to that Premiership. You can see so far from their performances. Yeah,
there seems to be a very determined attitude at Ballymena, to go straight back up. But as I've said there's a few teams who are showing that attitude. Don't be ruling out, Sion, Bangor's going to be thereabouts, and James's Swifts have got off to an absolute flyer as well. And even some of the sides not so far up the table. I mean, Camlock Rovers have always impressed me. They're a well organised side, to be honest, well drilled, and I think that along the way they'll produce the odd little upset as well. So once again, interesting to see how that turns out.
I think if you're keeping track of what phrases I say on the show the most, one of them would definitely be that the Championship is going to be very tight this year, and I stand by it and I will continue to say it throughout the show. So if you've got your bingo cards, you're always getting that one. But it's just, you can't call it at all. You mentioned Sion's team are quite a young squad, but they look like they've got a lot of energy, really pushing forward, and they know how to score goals. And you mentioned Bangor as well. They've got a lot of experience in their side and some great results for them so far. Yeah, well, we have obviously, you and I went out last week to watch Sion against Ballymena. You're 100% right there. They're a young side, but they're very, very energetic, and they play with a lot of energy, a lot of sort of speed about them as well. So they'll just certainly pick up results along the way. As for Bangor, obviously with Amber Dempster in, not that long ago in the studio, and she has went off on absolute flyer, and she's up to 6 goals already this season. I was at their match sort of last night, and we'll be showing the highlights of that shortly, but it was another fantastic game. Although they were up against Cumber, who have struggled at the start of the season, but Cumber worked hard and kept them out for a long time, but once Bangor settled and got into the game, it really only was going the one way. And Amber's already picked up an injury this season. Well, it's just that's Amber all over. She wouldn't be afraid to get stuck in, You'll see in the highlights her injury soon. But that Sion team, you might think sometimes with a young team that they might lack experience and kind of look like they're lost a bit, but they really didn't. I was really impressed by them, even though they did lose against Ballymena. Yeah, 100% to be honest. They bounced back well last night with a decent win, so to be honest. So they're certainly going to be a side to be reckoned with. And nobody will want to travel to Strabane. It's a long drive. By the time you get there, if you're coming up from Belfast or that sort of side of the country, it's a good 2-hour drive to get there. So by the time you get there on a match night, you can feel a little bit jaded, a little bit tired, and the young legs coming after you. Yeah, that's not what you want to face. And going back to Bangor again, and we'll talk about St James's in a minute, but Bangor I think they could do it this year. I think they'll definitely, this hurts me as an Ards fan, but I think they'll definitely be part of that group trying to get back up to that Premiership. Well, 3 wins from 3, you can't do much better than that, to be honest. Once again, it'll tell the tale more when they start playing the bigger sides, but they did play Ballymena now the other night in the League Cup match, and it went to extra time. I think it went to penalties in the end. It did go to penalties. And Ballymena eventually overcome them, but they showed they can match, Ballymena, so there's no reason why they can't match in the league as well. So great start for Bangor. They'll be determined to press on. Played very, very well last night and spelled some of their football was excellent, to be honest. So they'll certainly fancy themselves right up there,
come towards the end of the season.
And a team that's kind of always just kept growing strength from strength, and now maybe they'll get that chance in the Premiership for the first time.
Once again, a bit like their men's team, who obviously had their ups and downs over the last few years. They've been out of the Irish League, they've bounced up, and they were very unfortunate not to make it into the Premiership this time around. So certainly they have an ambition there, for not just for the men's team, but for the women's team to also make the top leagues, and they're working very, very hard at it. And all credit to them for doing that.
Ards will never talk to me again if I keep talking about Bangor, so let's move swiftly on to St James's. They've also had a really good start, and they just look like a team also who want to be part of that group pushing for promotion.
St James's have always been thereabouts in terms of the championship. The only thing I've been a little bit concerned about, if I've looked through their lineups, and they've done well, they've got the results, another good result last night, but to be honest, in terms of the substitute bench, there's been one or two times there's only been maybe 2 players on it, and my fear would be if they do pick up a couple of injuries along the way, or players not available for whatever reason, I think that's when they could maybe find it a little bit hard. But great start for them. Obviously Siobhan Bell was in the other week. She's not back yet, but she should be back very soon, and she makes a massive difference as well. She's a great captain, to be honest. She drives the team onwards, and when she comes back it'll make a big difference as well.
I'm excited to see how that championship pans out this year. As you said, it's so hard to tell how everybody will end up at the end of the season, and get your bingo cards out. It's going to be a very tough championship this year. But we're going to take another break here in the studio and head over to see some highlights. This will be a regular feature in our shows now, and this week we head to Clandyboy Park to see some highlights from Bangor versus Cumber Rec.
Yeah, it was really good. Good to get a few minutes into the tank. All the girls gave 100%, especially after a tough cup match on Monday against Ballymena. So it's nice to get some fresh legs out on the pitch, especially a big win tonight with the score we did. It was nice to get 2 goals as well.
Yeah, we're disappointed. Bangor were just the better team tonight and we didn't take our chances. We had a couple of, or maybe 3 chances in the first half we didn't take, and we were punished for it in the second half. So lessons learned tonight, but we'll go again the next game.
It took us a while to get settled into the game, but once we started playing our football, getting the ball moving, we really settled into it and, you know, played great football. And we really deserved the goals that we got. Could have been a few more, but we'll take what we got there.
Yeah, I'm really proud. 50th competitive appearance tonight, so it's actually flown in. I couldn't believe that it was the 50th, so really proud of it and really proud to play for the club. So yeah, big night for me.
Did you ever think when you made that first step onto the pitch for that first game you'd reach 50 games?
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you what the next 5 minutes of my life looks like, so but I'm really glad that I've made it to 50, and I never know, might make it to 100.
That seemed like a good match at Clandyboy Park last night. If you want to watch those highlights again or see highlights from other NIWFA games, head over to the NIWFA social medias at any time to watch the highlights. Colin, now that the show is coming to an end, you can firstly breathe as you just did. Secondly, what was it like sitting in that chair being where the guests normally are?
I think I'd rather be in your seat, to be honest, because you never know what's going to come up in terms of questions, but I've survived and that's the main thing.
It's a really hard job being the host, thanks very much.
Well, you're doing very well, so let's keep it going.
Maybe I should one week get one of the guests to keep asking the questions and I'll be on the other side. Or you can take this and we'll swap.
Exactly, and we'll see how that turns out. Be interesting.
Thank you so much for joining me, and
no bother.
I'll probably have you in some other time. You've been okay, just been tolerable.
Thanks very much.
That's it for this episode of the Northern Ireland Women's Football Show. As ever, thank you so much for watching, but that's it for me for now. Goodbye.